Hey guys, welcome back. So today is Rocket's third session in this colt starting series. If you missed the last one, I'll link it up here. We saddled him for the first time in his last session. And if you want to see the whole playlist, I'll put a link to that in the comments. Today, we're going to be putting his first ride on, and he is a little bit sweaty because before we started the camera, I made sure that he could lope with the saddle on. One thing that's very, very important to me is to be sure that the horse can move out at all three gaits with the saddle on, at a walk, trot, and lope, confidently and relaxed. Okay, if he cannot do that with the saddle on, with that back cinch on, and with the stirrups moving around, then there's no way I'm going to step on him because clearly he's not ready yet. We haven't passed that stage. So we're at that point where I feel like he's about ready to step on. I'm going to show you every step that I do before I actually get on the horse and move him out. And saying all that, I would highly recommend that you do this in a round pen if you have the availability. We just moved out here recently, so I don't have my round pen set up yet, and I've got to do everything in this open arena. Okay, but if you are in a round pen, it really helps you to just work on that impulsion and forward movement without having to really teach the horse to get super soft in your hand before moving forward with everything else. So the first thing we're going to talk about is headgear. Okay, I've started horses in a lot of things in the past, from halter, snaffle, loping, hackamores, and today I'm going to be using the side pole, and we get these from the people who manufacture rope halters. I really like them for the way they communicate with the horse's face. I think that it's great. It has a lot of that equivalent pressure to the bit without actually putting the bit in the horse's mouth and giving them something else to think about and worry about on your first ride. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, a very important thing that I want to bring out that I don't see a lot of people do is that I would recommend lunging your horses in whatever headgear you're going to ride them in, okay? So a lot of times we'll get these horses to where they can lunge around in a halter or something, and you think they're pretty soft and pretty stable, but then someone puts a loping hackamore on them or a snaffle, and suddenly the horse is kind of dragging them around because of the unfamiliar feel of that new headgear. So you want to be sure that you lunge these horses around, make sure they're soft, make sure that they interpret the pressure correctly, make sure you can bring that rein across, ask them to go the other direction, and they respond to that pressure in the face and guide off of that, okay? So this horse really had a problem maintaining impulsion in the circles and maintaining impulsion when he felt pressure. He just kind of want to either drift away from it or stop. Like, he did not like to keep going and get soft when pressure was applied. So it's really great to see the progress that he's made in this area. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is flex this horse, do a little bit of lateral flexion on the ground. And the reason I like to do this is because it just kind of gets the horse a little bit more mentally soft and prepared for when you get on him. He can take hold of that face and he is less likely to brace against you. You at least have set those basic foundation steps for the horse to stay soft and calm when you're working through different exercises. So we're going to go ahead and start flexing this horse a little bit. And often what will happen when you pick up that nose is that the horse will just drift around with the hip and continue to walk away from you as you apply pressure to the nose. So we want to apply just enough that the horse has a chance to respond, but not so much that he feels like he's in a bind and has to get away and you're just kind of chasing that hip. However, there will probably be a lot of times where you do feel like you're chasing the hip, and what I tell people here is just to maintain composure, just stay there, maintain the pressure, and just gently walk with that horse, okay? Don't face the horse, don't walk with him like this. Walk with him with your feet facing the nose, just gently maintain that pressure on the reins, and stay with him as he steps around, okay? And as soon as I feel any release, then I'm going to give back to that horse. Eventually, I want this horse's nose to be able to come all the way around softly whenever I pick up that rein, but we got to start with baby steps at first, okay? Once we have this established a little bit, we are going to work with backing with the reins. Now, obviously, we teach our horses to back up from the pressure on the lead rope and the halter, all that stuff from early on, but the pressure from the reins is a little bit of a different connection. So you want to be sure that your horse has a basic understanding of how to get off the pressure on the reins so he doesn't get really claustrophobic when you're riding him and you end up with a wreck. A lot of times I'll see people start these horses and they never worked on this, and when the horse starts to get nervous, they get even more nervous and they clamp up and they pull on the horse, and things just have, it's like this bad snowball effect, and things get worse and worse and they have a wreck. So I like to tell people to work on backing with those reins just a little bit. I'll put my hand over the saddle, but where my hands would kind of be in position when I was riding him, and I'll just gently ask him to back up, and we'll do that a few times till I feel like he has a basic understanding of how to get off the pressure on the reins when I ask him to back up. The next thing we're going to do is to get ready for mounting. All right, so I like to cause as much commotion as possible around these horses. I like to jump up and down next to their shoulder, next to the saddle, kind of near the hip. I want to jump up and down, make sure there's no tenseness or anxiety about that. Slap that saddle all over, move the saddle around if I can. We're going to move the stirrups around, slap the stirrups, and I'll keep doing this, and sometimes I'll even send them off on a small circle and I'll keep slapping that stirrup so they can be prepared for whatever may come in the future when I'm riding them. You know, anything that they may hear and feel when I'm in the saddle, I want them to experience a little bit when I'm on the ground, okay? And as long as the horse is really comfortable with this, then you can go ahead and move on. This horse is giving me a lot of green lights in a lot of areas, but there are some horses that you're going to need to be much more thorough with this. So you can see us moving along pretty quickly. I do want to say, if your horse is doing this and like getting a little bit tense, don't ignore those signs. Don't climb on your horse. Don't just be like, you know what, they moved along a little bit faster in the video, so I think I'll get away with this. Okay, really pay attention to the signs your horse is giving you and continue to work through that until he gets really relaxed and confident about whatever you're doing before you step on. Once we're ready to mount, there's something that I like to do, and I don't see this practice a lot, but for me, it's been really effective in kind of measuring where that horse is at and how he's dealing with things so far. So I like to step on, move around in my saddle a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and step back off, walk the horse forward, and unlock his feet. And then I'll go ahead and do it again. If I have a really worried horse, which we deal with a lot of really high-strung, really hot, worried-natured horses, and a lot of those horses tend to need those extra steps. You get on, you get off. Just like with the saddle, we'll put it on a few times and make sure that horse knows, hey, there's a release here. You're going to be okay. This isn't, I'm just not going to throw the saddle on, strap it on, and go. So I want to step on that horse, move around a little bit, let him feel my legs up there. Go ahead and step back off, unlock the feet, and do it again. This horse, again, is giving me so many green lights. He doesn't seem to need this, but I'm going to show you guys a process anyway. Once I'm done with these steps, I'm going to go ahead and step on this horse. I'm going to start flexing him. We'll work on a little bit of that flexion that we did on the ground. Once I feel that he's comfortable and confident, we're going to go ahead and move him out. Now, I don't want to sit here for a long period of time and flex this horse and flex him and flex him. That is not my goal. And in general, I really do not like to flex my horses a lot. I like to flex them very little bit. But the reason I'm emphasizing a little bit more on this horse is because I know just how stiff he is and how much of a tendency he has to want to get stiff and evade pressure. Just kind of lock up in the jaw, take that bit and just run away with it, okay? So this is something he's dealt with for a long time. Even when his owners had him, he just kind of wants to take the halter or whatever pressure he feels on it and just go the opposite direction. So I want to be sure that I have a little bit of a handle on his face here before we move out. But again, don't dwell on this. Don't do a ton of flexing. I don't want your horse soft and so pliable that you can't get it to move out and you can't get it straight when you start going forward. Once we start moving out, you can see there's a lot of times that these horses will want to just kind of step around in the hip or step around in the shoulder, but not actually unlock the feet and go forward. So I just wait with them here for quite a while. I don't generally just up and spank my horses or whatever or kick them really hard. I try to take it pretty easy on them in this step because I want them to, again, stay confident and relaxed, okay? But if your horse is just really not getting the memo and you've been there several minutes and he's just kind of drifting around there, go ahead and start adding a little bit more energy. Get him pushed out, spank him a little bit with your rein if you have to, and get those feet moving forward. I don't really worry about the direction my horse is going at this point. I just want the feet to move forward. And once we get those feet unlocked off and the horses will be a little bit tight and worried, make sure you have one rein shorter than the other and you can kind of keep the horse on an arc and bent around a little bit so he's walking on somewhat of a circle. If things go awry, things go bad, you can pull that rein up and kind of chase that hip around, get him unlocked, and you'll take a little bit more control back, okay? But if you just have the horse on a straightaway and you're trying to chase him forward and things go bad, you see so many times the horse will just lock up like this, the head goes up, the ears go back, and they take off running. So kind of keep your horse on an arc there where he can see you and he feels comfortable and confident, he knows where you are, he knows what's happening. And then when you do go to change directions, be sure that you sit to the inside of the turn. So many times I see people not prepare for this. They'll be going to the left and then they'll change directions to the right, but they never actually physically change directions, okay? So they're sitting out here and their equilibrium is way off to the wrong side, and that horse might squirt out from underneath them or do something stupid and suddenly they're on the ground because they never rode the inside of the circle. So I always tell people, sit to the inside of the turn. If you're going right and you're gonna go left, adjust your seat first, get to the inside of the turn, and then go left. Be prepared, because you never know what's gonna happen on these first rides, okay? We wanna pretend that we do, we wanna pretend and hope that we've prepared our best and that our horses are completely confident, but you just never know what's gonna happen. So always sit over the center of gravity, be sure you're on the inside of the turn when you change directions. And also prepare your horse for it, okay? Don't just change directions and move your hands abruptly, move your legs abruptly, anything like that. I've had so many times where I reached a rein across maybe a little too fast, and I thought I had good feel and I thought things were going pretty smoothly, but I reached that rein out there to change directions and suddenly the horse is squirting off because he didn't expect to see me on the outside eye. So be mindful of that. Don't be scared, but be mindful. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is move this horse up to a trot. I want to get him moving out pretty quickly because we don't want to pansy around here, have to walk too long, especially not on a horse like this who's so dead already, okay? So if you have a little bit more feely horse, I might stay at a walk a little bit longer, but my favorite gait on these first rides is the jog, okay? I like to get them up to a jog as fast as possible because that really just starts getting them freed up and more comfortable, okay? There you don't feel like you're sneaking around up there. So we're gonna jog this horse around here, and my main goal is to just get him freed up in the feet. I'm not gonna worry about too much else that's happening around him, okay? We're gonna try and get a little bit of direction, but my main goal is to get him moving out and then leave him alone. All right, that's kind of the note we want to leave this horse on today, especially, again, since he is so slow and so sticky about moving out. Now, I'm not going to lope this horse today, mainly for the reason that I don't have a lot of control in the face, okay? I don't want to put us both in a compromised position. Now, I probably could get him loped, but there's the chances are I know this horse well enough to know how much, when he gets a little uncomfortable, how much he wants to stiffen up and just run the opposite direction. I don't think he would buck. I don't think I'm in danger in any way in that way, but I want to set us up for success so that every ride there's no anxiety, no worry, nothing goes wrong. We want to have this as smooth as possible, okay? We have opportunities to lope in the future. We're going to do that in the next couple rides, but right now I just want to be sure that this ride goes smoothly. If I had a round pin, I would for sure lope this horse out, and that is because the round pin kind of does most of the work to keep the horse contained. I wouldn't have to be pulling on his face or getting in his face, nagging him, or anything else like that. I would just have to get him moving out and ride him. So the round pin is really useful for that, and like I said before, I would highly recommend doing this in the round pin, but we just kind of got set up here and our round pin isn't up yet, so I'm having to get this horse going and started, and the arena is where I've got to do it. All right, so the next thing we're going to work on is the stop and the backup. I don't worry about this too much in my first ride, but I do want to work on it just a little bit while I am on his back, and I don't try to do too much of like trotting and then stopping abruptly, okay? Because again, like I talked about a little bit ago, often you'll see people try to do this stop on the first ride, and the horse gets really claustrophobic and he ends up fighting the pressure, especially on a horse like this. So what I like to do is kind of start bending that horse around and then start taking hold of that outside rein and just see if I can slowly bring that horse to a stop, and then I'll release, okay? So that's what we're going to work on a bit. Now, when you start working on the backup, I just take hold of that horse with just a little bit of pressure. I'll start bumping my legs just a little bit, and I'll wait till he finds the release. They're going to try and walk forward. I don't want you to pull harder in the backup. I just want you to kind of maintain that pressure there. I mean, hold them kind of like a fence post. If the horse was pulling against a fence post, the fence post doesn't pull harder, but the horse is going to feel a little bit more pressure there as he tries to go forward. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of hold him in place, gently move our hands back and forth a little bit. And because this isn't a bit, I don't like to seesaw on my reins with a bit on, but this is a side pull, so I'm just going to gently kind of try to break that horse up a little bit by pulling on those reins back and forth and get that horse to step back, okay? And then I'll immediately release. And I don't look for a lot of steps at once, just a few, okay? Again, don't make your horse claustrophobic. If you find you can't seem to get the back up at all, what I want you to do is to step that horse's hip around and then back it up, okay? So that's one of the most effective ways to get a backup, is to get the horse's hip disengaged, get it moving around, and then just kind of pick up both reins and get the horse to step backward, okay? It works every time I've tried it. So this is a really effective tool if your horse is just really stuck. Bring him forward, disengage the hip, pick up both reins, step him back. One fluid motion, and it'll get it done. All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been helpful to see the steps that I used to put the first ride on. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Be sure to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.